Hi, welcome back to my channel where we talk about all the things of the spiritual journey, spiritual awakening, so you can find yourself closer to your purpose and becoming your authentic self. Today, we will be going in depth about a spiritual awakening. And I'm going to be talking about my spiritual awakening and where did it start? How did I even get down this rabbit hole of spiritual awakening? And yeah, so let's just get straight into it. Oh my God, I cannot even believe I'm talking about my spiritual awakening because it is such, like, I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. It was such a drastic change. Like, it was just like a waking moment in my life that I just never expected it. So everybody's spiritual journey is very different. Like, nobody goes through the same exact way of awakening, but I'm going to talk about my awakening story and where it all started. So my awakening story started during the pandemic when everything was closed up, as I had mentioned prior in a video before. And oh my God, I honestly can't even like go back into those feelings because they were so intense. The feelings that I felt were so intense. But basically, during the pandemic, when everything was closed, I was triggered. I got triggered into a spiritual awakening. And that's how a spiritual awakening usually happens. You usually get triggered by something, by some sudden, life-changing, like, event that happens in your life. Either divorce, a breakup, like a job loss, the pandemic, things like 9/11 can cause a spiritual awakening for some people. So the pandemic was mine. So during the pandemic, I literally felt completely isolated, and I just dived deep into like a sudden awakening. It was just like so sudden. Like, all of a sudden, everything was just like questionable. Everything became questionable for me. Everything became like clear to me. I like to call it a realization awakening because it was the moment that I realized that everything I've been living has actually been a complete lie. And we're gonna get more into it because when you're going through a spiritual awakening, you're basically breaking out of the matrix. You're basically realizing that you've been living as a puppet. And that was my moment of realization when I was indoors and wasn't around the distractions, wasn't around the constant noise and chaos that was distracting me from even realizing that I was living a life that wasn't resonating with who I truly am, that I didn't even know who I truly was. And so when I was in that silence, that's when I was able to see all of that. I've gotten a lot of clarity in that isolation during the pandemic, but it was intense, okay? What triggered my spiritual awakening was most definitely the isolation, the loneliness, the feelings of the world during that time, everything about the sadness and the deaths that was going around and that you were hearing about every single day while also being alone in that just dragged me so down to the ground where I was breaking. I was dismantling because I was living a life that was always in control of what I was feeling. Everything about the media and everything outside of me was in control of me. But during that time, I did not know that. I didn't know that I was attached to like society's way of thinking, society's ways of beliefs. And I realized during that time that we literally are sucked in a matrix, that everything that we watch, do, and see is all a part of the matrix that someone was telling us to be like. And so during that time, that's when I had my first awakening and I was questioning every single thing. I went deep down into the conspiracy theories, and that's all I would spend my time reading. I would go online and do a major research every single day about why is this. I started questioning the pandemic. I didn't believe that it was real. I thought it was made up. And a lot of it was because the way that they forced it, like, I just questioned everything. Like, Why is this happening right now? Why is there a pandemic happening right now when we knew about this already? Why is it supposedly coming from China? Why are we not able to work? Why are they telling us that we can't do X, Y, and Z? Like, it was just like, why? And the more questions I asked, the more I realized I never knew anything. Like, nobody knew. We still don't know. We still don't have actual answers. We only go based off what we've been told. And that's where I realized that we need to change. I didn't want to just rely on what I've been told, because I don't even know if what I've been told was ever the truth. And when I started having that realization that everything might be a fucking lie, oh my God, that broke me. I like literally shattered. I shattered. And I felt down into a big, deep depression, because it made me realize that I don't know anything about anything in my life. That sudden realization of you not knowing anything about life, and not knowing who to trust, and not knowing that you've been living you've been living a life where life has been living you, and you have not been living it. That was my realization, that I was actually never fully aware of what I was doing. It was all orchestrated for me, and I've just been a puppet this entire time. And that is what it feels like when you suddenly awaken out of the matrix, because that's what it is. The spiritual awakening is you finally waking up into your own spirit and not living based off the ego, because the ego is attached to every single thing that we've been told to be like. How to dress, how to look, what's important, what matters, what we should be focused on. It takes you away from your purpose. It takes you away from your own identity. It takes you away from your own connection within yourself. And that was something I realized throughout this entire journey, that I was never connected to my own spirit, to my own self. The symptoms of this awakening was literally no joke. The way that I was expanding my consciousness and realizing that I'm more than my ego, that there's a higher consciousness level of thinking about me, myself, like as spirit, it was very confusing for me at first. I felt very alone. I felt very lost. I felt very heartbroken by what I've been enduring, which is being lied to, which is something that you feel when you have this sudden realization of like, damn, these people are actually cruel people. Like, they're cruel. And I had a major breakdown. Like, I started having a hard time sleeping. I couldn't sleep, just because I was just filled with thoughts of like the realization of, oh, how could this actually be true? And there was like an inner knowing feeling that, no, you just woke something up. Like, you just woke up to the truth. But it was just so hard to connect with that, because everybody around me was still sleeping. And that's one of the biggest things when you have an awakening. Everybody around you most likely is still sleeping. So now you feel fucking crazy, because you don't know how to talk about this with anybody. Who can I talk to that can actually understand what I'm going through? So you just sit there and you talk about it with yourself all night, which is what I was doing. I talked about my thoughts all night. I couldn't think about anything else but how everything is a lie. Because of this awareness of people being asleep, and I'm like suddenly awakened now, I immediately, and this is just one of the symptoms, this is just one of the things that happens when you start to awaken. You immediately, almost immediately start to disconnect from people. These people no longer are resonating with you. And that's exactly what I did. I separated myself from the people I was hanging out with. I separated myself from my partner. I separated myself from everybody and everything. Like, literally, I separated myself from everything that I'm used to knowing of doing, and I changed my lifestyle completely. During that pandemic, I was in New York City, so we literally weren't allowed to do anything. Like, we couldn't go and hang out. We couldn't go to people's houses. Like, it was big in New York City because there's a lot of people here, and any little thing that you do, you're like close to somebody. So I was just fully in isolation mode. But that isolation that I'm not used to having, because I'm not a person that's used to being isolated, the life that I was living before this awakening had nothing to do with being alone. Let me tell you that. Like, I never spent time alone. I never spent time by myself. I hated being by myself. I hated hearing the silence. I always was around people. I always wanted to be around everybody, not even just one person. I needed to be around a lot of people. I also worked in the club at a party scene where there was always noise and like escapism going on constantly, because we're in the club drinking and smoking. And that was my life all of the time. And when I wasn't doing that, I was outside doing that. So I was filled with constant escapism, like constant escapism, constant noise, constant just not being in the present moment, which didn't allow me to see what I was actually living, which was, I was just a puppet. I was just a puppet, like literally just so completely unaware, never even thinking to ask, am I happy in life? That was never a thought. I never asked myself that. Why? Because I was just going day by day, just waking up and going like a routine, like literally like a robot. And so when I started to awaken, I disconnected with a lot of people. I disconnected with a lot of things that I realized, like, why do I even do that? You know, like I stopped drinking mainly because I didn't have nowhere to drink, because I'm just home and I was never someone that drank alone. As I dived more deeper and deeper into realizing what was actually happening, I started getting super moody, very conflicted with how I was feeling with life, very confused. That's the word. Simple as that, just confused with life. What is my life about? What does it mean? What have I been doing? To have the realization of like, what is my life even about and what was it about this entire time? It just really hits different, because you kind of feel like you've been wasting time, because you're realizing like, oh shit, I'm finally awake. I'm like waking up right now. And so that just put me in such a deep down mood of depression. I was depressed with the not sleeping, and then I was having a hard time eating just because like I just wasn't in the mood. Like, eat for what? I want to die. I started to feel those feelings of deep depression where I did not want to be here anymore. And I didn't understand that because I was never a person to feel that way. I'm a very, very jolly, optimistic person. That is my personality. I am always expecting positivity. And for me to feel that way, I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was so confused that I was even picking up on those feelings. And I was like, I actually need help. Like, I don't know what's going on. The realization was just too intense for me, and I didn't have anybody to talk to. And this is exactly why I'm making these videos, because I don't want anybody to feel alone while they're going through this process. Definitely more now than ever, it is more acceptable, it's more understanding, there's a lot of information about it. But really, the more the merrier, because we never know who around us is going through the same thing and that this can be helpful for. Because during this time, I did not know that I was experiencing a spiritual awakening at all. I had no idea that I was going through this, so I felt very, very alone. I did not go to the internet to go look for information like this about what it is that I'm feeling. Like, my YouTube algorithm was not put on this type of time. I did not even believe in anything at this time. I did not believe in spirituality. I wasn't someone that was into religion. I did not even talk to God at this time. I did not. So I was actually very disconnected from spirituality and believing in a higher power. I was very disconnected from that at that time. I was in a very dark place that I didn't even know I was in until this awakening. Until this awakening, I did not know where my spirit was. And a lot of the times, the reason why we get lost with spirit is because we don't connect to spirit. Society focuses so much on materialism, and money and beauty. Like, that's pretty much it. Are you successful or are you beautiful? If you are not neither or, then you do not matter. Nothing else is relevant. And that's something else that I learned is a part of the matrix. The way they feed that into us, we lose touch with our spirit. So much so that we don't realize that we're spiritually deprived. Our spirit is not happy because our spirit is not living in purpose. Our spirit is too busy focusing on the next thing to buy. Sounds fucking crazy, right? Yeah, I know. So yeah, I felt very alone. I felt very depressed. And I felt like I didn't want to be a part of a world that was treating us and manipulating us so intensely. So I did develop major depression where I was feeling a little bit, I don't want to use the word suicidal because I wasn't feeling like I wanted to end my life, me physically, but I wanted life to end, period. Like, I wasn't going to do it ever. Like, I just don't think I have the balls to ever do that. I honestly can't even imagine me doing that. But I know that I did not want to be a part of this. I wanted to go to a different world. I wanted to go exist somewhere else. That's what I was feeling. And I knew that I did not want to be here. So then I went and talked to a doctor. I needed to go talk to someone that could help me. I didn't, like I said, again, I didn't know what was happening with me. I didn't know that what I was experiencing was a spiritual awakening at that time. But I did know that I needed some help. I knew that I did not have the energy and the power within me to help myself get up from this this place that I've been brought to with the spiritual awakening. So I got a psychiatrist and I was prescribed Wellbutrin. If you know, you know. But yeah, at that time, I feel like a lot of people were on Wellbutrin because the pandemic really did damage to our mental health. And it did damage to everything possible. Our mental health, our emotional well-being, our physical being, and most definitely our spiritual being. Like, we were completely lost souls. And with all of the fear mongering that they were putting onto us, I mean, how could you possibly be happy? The news, the media was feeding us fear and anxiety constantly. Every single day, which is why I even felt down to that level. Because not only am I having this realization, I'm actually seeing it in real life. How the lies the lies that they're feeding us is working. It's working because we are down bad right now. They took away our finances, our jobs. They said, yeah, today you're done. I was left with no job and with no explanation as to what is about to happen, when things are going to come back to normal. And it didn't go back to normal. It took years. A lot of people are still feeling the effects of the pandemic. Still, it took us so long to actually tap into the years. And this is not for everybody, but this definitely happened for me because I went through a complete disconnection. I complete disconnected from this reality. It took me years to actually feel like, okay, I do feel like I'm in 2023 now. Like, the years was not processing for me because I just got stuck in dissociation. I completely dissociated with myself. That might have been a coping mechanism now that I think about it, because how fucking else could I have swallowed everything I just, awakened to? But between the media that they were feeding us on top of the George Floyd and I mean, they do such a good job. I have to give it to them. They do such a good job with really destroying us to the core in every way possible. If they're not going to do it physically, they will do it psychologically to you. Absolutely. And that's exactly what I felt. And that's exactly why I ended on Wellbutrin. So then I'm on Wellbutrin. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on this and I'm going to take it because I literally don't know what to do. I have no idea. Because at this time, I started journaling. And I also, but I was not a journaler. So like, I literally didn't even spend time talking to myself, let alone if I was gonna sit here and journal. I didn't even know how to do that. I didn't even know how to like connect with my own thoughts at this time. So I'm journaling. I'm like, figuring out ways to like not lose myself. Cause I don't know why, but I had this sudden knowing that like I need to get my shit together while I'm trapped in the house by myself. Like I need to start focusing on working out and meditation. So I started picking up on those things just naturally, like it just came. But I now see that that was just a part of my awakening to direct me to, self-growth and well-being. So I started doing journaling, I started doing meditation, I started doing exercising at home, and changing the things that I was digesting on TV. So I started going on YouTube and watching videos. And so during this time, I was able to, during this time, I was trying to be there for myself in the best way possible, but it wasn't enough. I still had these thoughts. I still had these feelings of like, I just don't want to be here. Like, again, I was having a hard time going to sleep. I was having a hard time doing the smallest things. I remember writing on my to-do list to brush my teeth and to shower and to eat. Like, these are the things that were on my to-do list because I didn't have it in me to do it. I had to remind myself of that. Like, going from being outside every single day and living a life and then just being stuck and telling us like, oh yeah, you can't go anywhere and do anything with people. I was sick. I was fucking sick to my stomach. Cause I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to sit in the silence. Like, what do you mean? So I ended up doing the Wellbutrin, right? Okay. I go on the Wellbutrin. Of course, it doesn't help. In fact, I felt more depressed. At first, when I was taking it, because it takes a while to kick in. So I'm taking it, I don't really feel anything. Probably about month 2 or 3, I'm starting to feel good. I'm starting to feel like, oh, okay, I can actually do things again. Okay, this feels good, this feels good. But everything that I was going through was still there. But the Wellbutrin, I'm sorry that I'm having a hard time saying that word. Sometimes I do that. The Wellbutrin was helping me like wake up again, but it was still not taking away the feelings. I still felt the feelings. They were just behind the Wellbutrin, if you know what I mean. Like the feelings were being blocked basically by the pill, by the medicine. So when it would be wearing off, because I started like I stopped taking them because I never wanted to be on medication, because as you're awakening, you're realizing also medicine was never meant to actually cure you. We have natural remedies in nature that can cure everything, but they don't want you to cure yourself. They want you to be sick so you can still continue to buy medicine and rely on them, because this is a part of the whole system. That's also a part of the matrix that I did not know of. So as I'm learning more and more about the things that they do to keep us stuck, I'm realizing about the medicine. And this is something I actually already knew. I was never a fan of medicine. I actually studied psychology. And in school, I definitely, was trying to go down that route of psychiatry because they get paid more. And I see why they get paid more, because they're the ones prescribing the medication that the pharmaceutical companies are making billions and trillions of dollars off of. So it makes sense. So I was never a medicine girly, but I literally was at a place where I just couldn't. And if you need a pick me up to then get yourself back together, there's nothing wrong with that. So I went that route. And so, because I really didn't understand, I couldn't believe that I was feeling like, oh my God, I want to die. That was just so unlike me. So I was like, okay, I'm down bad. This is really bad. But for me, I stopped taking the medication and I did not feel better. I did not feel better. In fact, that's when I went down the dark night of the soul. That's when I then awakened into the dark night of the soul journey that very quickly came after my awakening. And yeah, during this time, I was feeling very lost, very alone, and very just isolated from everything. And I knew that I was going down a hole that I've never honestly experienced before. And I didn't know how to cope, but journaling definitely helped me out. And it really like reminded me of where I was at, because I was totally dissociating at this point. Like, and it just got worse from there. Like, it literally did not get better. But this is what happens through the journey. Like, when you're awakening and realizing all of this and stepping outside of the matrix, it will feel very intimidating. It will feel very exhausting. It will feel very draining, because you're basically coming out of something that has been sucking your soul out. You know, that takes a lot of power to do that. So during that, you know, time where you're trying to pull yourself out, it's going to feel very heavy, because you've been stuck in that place for a long time, your whole life. So yes, the awakening and the dark night of soul is literally no joke, and it is always totally worth it. So please continue your journey, because when I came out of this, baby, you cannot tell me nothing. If I've been through that, I can go through anything. Okay? My advice for the people that are going through their first spiritual awakening and it feels so intense like that, definitely find people to connect with that are going through the same journey as you, so you do not feel alone. Like, please do not isolate yourself and take yourself into a even darker hole by isolating yourself and experiencing that all by yourself, because you don't have to. There's probably people around you or online that are experiencing something very similar to you. And I wish that I had somebody around me during that time to just like hold my hand and like go through that journey with, because it was very intense to go through that by myself, and like to get myself out of that dark hole all alone without realizing or even ever talking to anybody what I was going through. And that's something that I learned that I did. Like, I never went to people when I had a problem, because I was super hyper independent, and so I never attracted to asking for help. Like, that just wasn't something I liked to do or even felt comfortable doing. So during this awakening, or any awakening that you're having, I highly recommend that you go find somebody that can help you, so you guys can talk about what you're going through together and actually realize where you're at, because it is very intense. And I don't think anyone should do that on their own. Like, literally, no one should go through that by themselves. I definitely recommend journaling. I definitely recommend moving the body, so when you are starting to dissociate, you still feel connected to your body. Because when I was dissociating, I felt completely detached from my body and my mind and everything. Like, so I would do things like journal, have community, and move your body through some physical form, like exercising, yoga, dancing, anything, like any physical activity that will keep you going, running, walking, like reminding yourself to go for a walk every day for 10-15 minutes, just to remind yourself that, you know, you're still here, you're still alive, you're still here on earth, because the dissociation was real, okay? And so that would be my recommendations to do. I hope that your journey goes very smoothly, and I hope that you feel safe, and I hope that you feel aligned to what's happening, because it's happening for a reason. You are not going through an awakening for absolutely no reason. You're not going through an awakening to suffer. You're going through the awakening to remove yourself from the suffering, to finally wake up from your suffering and leave the suffering and say goodbye to all the pain and the traumas. So when you feel that coming out, it's because it's time for you to leave it. It's time for you to walk away from it. So that is what I experienced throughout my first awakening. Very intense and very purposeful. So I recommend you to stay on track, believe in what's happening to you right now, call back your power, and awaken. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know where you are at on your journey, and share, like, comment. If you feel like someone has experienced these things, tag them and bring them on to the journey of self-development so we can all reach our purpose in this life and reach our authenticity and who we're supposed to be in this lifetime. Have a good day. Mwah.